We're back at you with Gloves Off, and today we have a special guest, Jorge Rodriguez. How we doing, George?
Good. How are you doing, Paul?
Good. Um, Folks, George is going to be running for City Council District 6. But before we get started, folks, if you guys want to listen to us on our app, Border Indie, go ahead and download it. If you want to ask questions, the number's going to be up there. So it's going to be an interesting show because George has been a forefront for a long time in the public eye as a public servant, as an elected public official, and we'll find out what he brings to the table towards this district. All right? George, tell us why after so many years. ¿Qué pasó?
Okay, I'd like to introduce myself first for those of you that don't know me. Jorge Rodriguez, candidate for City Council District 6. I was born and raised in Laredo, Texas. I lived here all my life. I did live in different parts of Laredo.
Sure.
And I started, I did live for 16 years over in the Chacon area over there by the railroad tracks. So I did live in the barrios and I, moved up. Like I said, I've lived here all my life and I have a very successful business. And I am a Texas licensed real estate broker. And in the interim of my life, I served as a school trustee for 9 years at the Laredo Independent School District. It was a 3-term. And I have a lot to bring to the table, Paul. And I'm real concerned of where we're at right now with the city, I think I can make those changes. I have solutions. I don't just have promises. There is solutions that I did in the district. There's just a lot of them to talk about. But not only just changes, I also brought in, we talk about bringing in infrastructure to Laredo. What I did bring in the school district with the other board members, it was a benefit for a lot of citizens in the whole community, not just in one district, and that was like the early college. That was one of the biggest things
Sure.
that we did. We worked along with David Killam, and we did it there at TAMU, and it's been very rewarding. There's kids nowadays graduating high school with up to 2 years of college.
Sure.
That's a big savings for everyone, and I see it as a big plus. But when we went in there, we looked at where some of the issues and some of the problems were. And one of the first things that we did was all the claims that we're doing on insurance. I go back and remember that we wanted to start saving money in the insurance. And Lord behold, the first year, the insurance gave us a refund check for $375,000, Paul, because we didn't have that many claims anymore. So how did we do that? We focused on some of the areas that were, like in the transportation department, they were bringing in a lot of injuries, a lot of people were getting called in sick and so forth. So what we did, we noticed that there was people out there just eating there. So what we did, with everyone's help and everybody's cooperation, we put basketball courts. So when they'd go out there and spend 15 minutes of eating this unhealthy food, well, they would go out there and burn it out, playing basketball. And it just brought everybody, a lot together. That was just an example. We also made a lot of changes with the kids. We went in there and we pulled out all this sugar, all these candy machines that the school district had. This is just being proactive on fixing problems. You just can't, you got to come up with solutions to all these concerns and the problems that the school had. And I think I can come up with programs and invite other people to help us come up with some of the problems that we have now in the city.
What problems do we have in the city that everybody keeps talking about problems of the city. The
Yes.
city has problems. This is problem and this is problem. Where do the problems lie? What are the common denominators of those problems?
Okay, the number one problem is taxes that everybody's complaining
Sure.
on me. Like I said, I'm a Texas real estate broker, and I listen to everyone's concern, not just in mortgages, and the houses, but I'm talking about also investors that come in and they have businesses and said, George, my taxes are just going up. So, how we can work together is by unifying, people and departments together. just getting a little bit more. Perfect example, Paul. I spoke to some police officers. They came over to our campaign headquarters, which is located at 1605 East Delmar at the French Quarters. We like to listen to everyone's concern.
Sure.
And we have a lot of officers at Park. He said, George, I think there's a lot. This is a police officers telling me that there is a lot of tax dollars going to waste because of the lack of communication that we don't have right now with the city and the sheriff's department, and vice versa. There's deputies, along with the sheriff himself, have told me there is no communication. And can you imagine when you're working a case, Paul, and the Laredo Police Department is at a certain level, and if the sheriff department starts picking it up on a fugitive or on a case, can you imagine if they were to somehow integrate together and get the information together? I think we'd get to the problem, solving the problem a lot faster. But there is lack of communication, and that's just an example. There's also lack of communication within departments. Perfect example, building permits. Again, I work a lot with builders because we do a lot of infrastructure for this town. We've been very successful as real estate brokers here in town, and I hear the problems. And the problems, you're asking what problems we have. Problems for building permits. There's a problem there. And it's the problem though is lack of communication. It's what it is. It's all we got to do is integrate computers. There's systems that we have in place in the city that you can only look at what you have and not just a person that's adjacent to you sitting right next to your desk, and you got to wait an additional week, month to get a permit. And it's not right, because keep in mind that the sooner that business is open is the faster we start collecting taxes to get more tax dollars. And I think that's why we're getting into these deficits. We run into deficits. It's like, imagine running your household budget. And, if you don't have the money, why are you continue making checks? That worries me. We continue having different things, different council have different things, different budgets. But knowing that they're on a deficit, why don't we just cut back and, hold on to those monies instead of just, keep raising and raising our taxes? I just don't see that as a solution to it. Raising the taxes, continue raising the taxes is not the solution. Or property values for that matter. Because
Sure.
I'm in real estate and I see it. I have a lot of complaints coming up. George, I'm trying to sell this property and you're telling me that it's not worth this, and look at the appraisal. I see it firsthand.
No, I understand, and it's getting out of hand. As a real estate agent, and you see a lot of people that want to build a business, that want to come in there, and they're looking for spots, especially commercial spots. And you yourself are out there looking for the person that just built this shopping center. You know what? I'm going to go get you your clients to come in here. That has helped a lot for you because you've done that. You've done well with that, filling in those commercial spots with businesses for your clients. How would you use that for Laredo? Because
Well,
Laredo is not
yes.
bringing in business. And
That's it.
they just closed the big one.
Exactly.
Toys R Us is gone. So
Exactly.
no one-
Paul, you're not going to believe this. A couple of years ago, I started, a few years back, I started going to these seminars that we go into Las Vegas, and you see all these shopping centers, people that go in there. One time I was flying with this builder and one of my associates, and we're flying to Vegas, and Lord behold, I looked over to my left, and there was a city councilman there. And I said, well, that's great. He's going to go out there and promote Laredo. So I finally asked him, do you all have a booth at this convention that we were going to? And he said, no, I'm going with my friends, and we just came for personal use. So I said, my gosh, I wish Laredo would have been representing and inviting these big companies, Paul, to come to Laredo. We all concentrate, we're the number one in Lamport. Let's still concentrate on warehousing. Well, I must tell you, Laredo, it takes more than just a warehousing. It just takes
course.
more than any type of business. We got to work and get unified. We cannot be partnering, I believe, just for the warehousing or just the businesses. You know, it's
everything.
it's a complete program. And I went out there to Las Vegas, and I was sitting with the people from McAllen. They had a booth. Corpus Christi had a booth. All the cities around us, except Laredo, has never been there. I
No,
mean,
no,
not in the
and-
last few
and-
years. I've been there myself, and I don't see Laredo being represented. So you're saying, what am I going to do? I'm going to go to these seminars, and I'm going to continue doing it. And I have brought businesses to Laredo.
Yeah.
I convince landowners to do shopping centers, and I tell them, you know, I'll get you contracts, and I go out and knock at big companies and bring them in here. And that's how.
And that's what we need to, that's what we need to do, and that's what people have forgotten, because that has not been happening. You know, they talk about this, they talk about the outlet malls, which is basically a flop. And,
Well, let's talk about that little
you know,
flop right there.
you know what I'm
Paul.
saying?
You know, that flop right there, and I see other businesses opening, Paul. You know, you got Siete Banderas, you know.
Sure.
That's a state-of-the-art building, and there's a lot of money that goes into that place. But I tell you what city council has to do, they got to do incentives for people to go out there. First,
Absolutely.
investors. First, we got to concentrate on investors, just like we do in the business and real estate. Give them a benefit to go out there and have efficient apartments downtown, so we can fill it in with bodies, with human beings that can actually spend money. You know, we got to focus. We can't focus on tourists right now. Let's focus on ourselves, on our family, on our community. That's what we should focus. Don't worry about the tourists. The tourists will come here. Trust me, they got to go through our border. But we got to give them something, you know. But how can you open a cafe downtown, and who's going to go out there? Are we actually going to drive downtown? No, we got to fill it in with bodies. We got to do apartments. These first-time home buyers, find them homes around the downtown area, close to it, and then get efficient apartments on these vacant buildings that we see every day downtown. It's so sad. Again, I was born and raised here, and I see this being deteriorated buildings, and there's got to be some type of incentives that the city has to give so we can get, you know, more population into the downtown area. And I know that's not my district, ladies and gentlemen, that is not my district, but I tell you what, that is the heart of our town. We need to take care.
People forget this, you know, and you're running for one district, but once you become a city councilman, you're representing Laredo.
That is correct.
Plain
That's
and
correct.
simple. You know, we can't be, oh, I'm just for the south side. I'm just for
You
the west
cannot.
side. I'm just for this barrio. No, it's
No.
Laredo, and we have to get that mentality out.
Ex-
You know, that you mentioned something today about miscommunication within the departments. You're absolutely correct. You know, I was on Facebook earlier today, and I read a thread of a concerned parent with softball on the parks. The Pony League is here. They've done an excellent job with their kids, the coaches and the parents and the young boys and girls that are playing softball and baseball. They're doing excellent, okay? And every year at this time, they bring the tournaments down. And every year you have the same complaints. Same people, Pony League, parents, coaches, the players, and the parks department. And it always runs around, evolves around what? Nobody has time. You can't use this playing field. You have to go to the other one. If Parks knows that this is going to happen year after year, I'm saying year after year, they have to have a schedule. You know what? Team A, you play this time from this time. Team B from this time to this time. So you don't have all these fits and sad girls and people that get discouraged, and people start blaming somebody else that has nothing to do with it but the parks. And it's lack of what? Communication.
Communication.
We have beautiful rec centers. As somebody mentioned, we had 100 and something parks here in the city. And they're not being done and used properly. They think they are. They've traveled around the country. Now they want to bring another museum and bring something else and a science fair, and I don't know what else they want to do, but you have to fill them in. I hate, you know, and you know that I've been involved in boxing and pugilism for a very long time. You go, the other day I picked up my young girl. They were all in the rec center. We're doing a workshop. And I walked into the boxing gym, empty. You could hear crickets. 7 o'clock at night, crickets. Excellent boxing gym. Nobody's there. Why? And then you tell them, goes, oh, it's because the coach and the coach. No. You get somebody, we have way too many coaches here that would do it, volunteer their time to teach these kids. But we have these little mob bosses and the little different de facto mob bosses that are directors that have been there longer than city council. and people don't do anything about it. What's the solution? We need to really revamp our departments. We really need to say, you know what? You've been a director for 10, 15 years. I think we need to change it. We need to do something that we get new ideas, new people motivated. Not only in city parks, in every other department. And I think that lack of communication comes from that. You know, this is mine. Oh, it's not yours. It's the city's.
That's right.
It's the city's, you know. Oh, this is mine. We're not going to allow you because, you know, you didn't put a sign of so-and-so on your property. No, no, no. It's the city's.
That is correct.
Yeah, everybody has a fair play to that.
Yeah, a lot of times I hate to say this, Paul, but it's just the politics.
Sure.
And it's obviously it's lack of communication, and they play politics. But I did see the city taking action in one particular department where they just clean houses and say you got to reapply. And I think that's what needs to be done in different areas.
Plain and I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you know?
plain and simple. Just reapply. You know, if it's once a year or once everybody gets a new city council, I don't know, but you're right. It's lack of communication, too many politics, and we got to do it what's right for the kids of our community. You know, that's in the kids. You know, the other day they mentioned to me, he said, George, are you for the Maquinitas here in Laredo? And I just found out through an ex-city councilman, he said, George, the way we're going to meet our budget, we raised the permits on the Maquinitas. So, you know, the city is for the Maquinitas. Sure. They make millions of dollars with these Maquinitas. So they're asking me, are you for or against it? Well, you know, I said, well, before I make that decision, I'm going to ask, you know, the people that go out there. And usually it's the senior citizens that go out there for entertainment, okay? And Lord behold, you should, you know, the majority, you know why they do it? It's the only thing there is for these old folks to go do. He says, George, my kids don't come over to see me. They don't visit me. I'm home alone. I do this once a week, you know.
I like the idea of the Maquinitas as the way it should be. All the side money and slipping money under the table and, okay, and, you know, and you hear it all over the place. So I got 200 and I got 500 and now so-and-so won 1,000 and, you know, that stuff, fine and dandy. It has to be regularized. I think regulated has to have license. I think we have to do something to actually legalize it for it to be regulated correctly. For them not to be
I agree with that.
For them not to be some type of abuse towards my old tia that likes to go out there and play.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Our moms that go out there and spend money. Our grandparents in some instances, all of a sudden, here comes a check and it's gone in the first week.
Right.
Because they went to a Maquinitas.
Right.
Know?
But again, Paul, you know, I had an individual ask me, my mom goes to the Maquinitas and spends her check. And I talked to the lady, why do you do that? He said, because my son never comes to visit me. You know, I'm here all alone and I get it out there and I go spend $20. It's not all the money. They go out there and spend. But we got to have something else for these individuals to do, you know. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's about kids, but it's also about the senior citizens. What can we do for them to not spend their money there if that's the way they want to do it? But I see it unfair for the city to go tax just the Maquinita people because they want to just meet their budget. You know, that's just like raising anyone else's taxes. I'm not for that. You know, we got to, again, have better communications and also figure out how to be more efficient for that matter. Because I've been to some departments, Paul, I can sit here for an hour and some nightmares that I personally have gone through and some other nightmares in the city. And I've been trying to fix them. I didn't start this, you know, this interest in Laredo when I decided to run for city council. I've been doing this for years and years and years, not because I was a trustee. You can talk to the past board members, and I've always had good communication with them simply because I have a concern of my city. I was born and raised here, and I have no plans on leaving this city. I have my interests here, but we need to continue having progress. We need to move forward, and the only to move forward is to have somebody with proven leadership. That's the only way we're going to move forward. You know, you do not sign and take the oath of office and become a public servant overnight, Paul. You know, it doesn't take that. You know, it doesn't take you to sign a piece of paper and become a public servant. You have to ask yourself, what have all these candidates done for our community? What have they done?
Absolutely.
you know-
we have to really sit back and say, what have each one of these actually done?
Exactly.
Except be proud of hearing their voice up there.
Exactly.
Who is the one that's actually moving forward? Whose district has been beautified? Who has done actually something? You know,
Exactly.
and there's very few.
There's
There's very few. You know, you can't go out there and buy votes with turkeys. Yeah, it's already getting old. You know that.
Yeah.
You know, and turkeys for votes, and here comes Christmas. Here comes another little turkey, and
Right.
you know what I'm saying? That's where the money goes. And I'm like, no, that's not what it's about. You know, we can. The age of buying votes, I think it's at an end. It's already, and it's peaked already. The new folks that are out there, the new guys that just came out of their service and came back, they're not buying that.
That's exactly.
Understand what
right.
I'm saying?
Exactly.
And but we need to get people out to vote. How there's 12 people in running in your.
I believe so.
There's 12 people the last I count, I think, and that's what it is. But
Let's hope it stops there.
you know, so it's going to be a numbers game. How many people can actually pull out? You know, a person, 1,200 votes probably puts you in the ballpark. You know.
That's correct.
And so, how are you going to bring out the vote when we have a discouraged voter? Now, we saw 21%, which is nothing. And people are very discouraged on our voting system. They're on our elections process, I guess. Okay, I don't know if there's a consensus that there's some type of nefarious action behind it. You know, now we have a county judge who's doing great, and our senator that are stepping up the ballgame and actually starting apparently some type of investigation on this. Finally, somebody's doing something. So how is George going to say, you know what, vote for me?
Well, I do it the old-fashioned way, Paul. I've done it in the past since 1999 when I started this as a public servant, and I've done it. It just takes block walking. A lot of my, voters will tell me, they're willing to go out and walk with me to encourage these people to go out and vote. But you're absolutely right. It's a low turnout, and I don't have the answer to that. But the way I'm going to handle personally is block walking. But I must say that posters do not sign. I am totally against all these posters that we're putting up in the streets, and we're contaminating our town. And I just wish when I get this to become city council, I will regulate the amount of posters that go out on elections, because it is ridiculous, Paul. I must tell the public that posters do not vote.
And signs.
And,
don't- yeah.
signs don't vote. It's an individual that takes the interest to go out and vote. I don't know why we're trashing our town. That
I don't know.
bothers me a lot, to be on the right of way, to be on public property. And they said, well, it's right behind my backyard. I said, yes, but behind your backyard is, your fence is built on your property line. And then it starts the city property, and there's signs all over McPherson, all over every major street. And then, I'm in real estate, and I do get people that come in, like I just mentioned to you earlier. I get these investors that come in from out of town that are interested in opening businesses, and they tell me, George, what's all these signs doing out in the street? Is there an election coming up? And first thing they'll tell me is, where are your signs? I said, well, election's still down the road, And
But that's you have a good point. But it helps out the small businesses. It helps out the small printing companies. That's what they live off of. And the silk screen companies that do the shirts and the caps, and they give back to the community in some sense of the word, because that's all they do.
right, I'm
They-
not against
you do what
t-shirts,
I'm
caps,
saying?
and all that. It's just the excessive amount of this plastic
Oh, sure.
that is going to contaminate. We're worried about straws now, about contaminating our society, and imagine this big old 4x8.
I understand. No, I understand. I think there has to be like, okay, you're a candidate, you're only allowed 50 signs.
Yeah.
Put them up.
You know,
You're-
other cities do have
They
laws.
do, they do that, and some cities even have. You're running for alderman, like up north, and, well, guess what? You can only bring in, for your campaign, 50,000 or 30,000, and that's it.
Exactly.
Those 30,000, that's how you're gonna use it. Se acabó, so.
You know, you were
it-
saying there's 12 candidates, multiply that by 100 posters.
No, and that's what I'm
104
saying.
by 8. You know, you do the math. Are we taking care of the city? Do we really care about our city, you know, by trashing it? And it's okay, if you must have put a
And
sign,
then-
I
and
do
then-
have
and-
signs
and-
out,
and-
Paul, I
and-
do have signs
No,
out,
no,
but
no,
if you
yeah.
do put them, you know, put them out
Be
correctly.
be respectful
And ask
about the thing.
permission on properties. You
Sure,
gotta
man.
ask permission.
Sure, all the time.
And they do not go in city property.
And they don't go on trees, they don't go staple on
Exactly.
trees, especially those that are running around and save the trees, and all of a sudden they nailed a couple of signs on a tree. You're
That's
like,
right.
okay, don't be, cutting yourself, exactly what you say. Now, how about, what's another major problem that you see in Laredo that you say, you know what, we really need to fix this? ¿Qué pasa?
Well, you know, there is a lot of concern about the security. I must say we gotta enforce it. And, you know, people tell me when I'm walking down the district and other parts of Laredo too, you know, people are concerned. He said, you
What
know,
kind of security?
police. Let me tell you, Paul, and, you know, when was the last time you saw a police officer's car go by your house? I do see plenty of them going down main thoroughway streets, yes, the highway, McPherson, Shiloh, but how many times, we have enough police officers, I must say that, but there again, it's communication, and it's where we tell them to drive by, and just, you know, maybe once a week, not once a month or once a year. It's what the voters are telling me. He says, we don't see police cars going by, you know, our house. And it's not just about answering emergency calls, it's about the security. And then the other one is all.
No, you're absolutely correct. Way back when in bigger cities that you have a lot more pedestrian walking. You had cops actually walking the beat. That's what they'll do. You had police officers, you see in New York, and they're walking.
Yes,
They're
right.
not in the car, they're walking.
Exactly.
And they're walking the neighborhoods and all that stuff. And we haven't seen that here,
We haven't seen it in a long time, Paul.
probably since the 50s.
You know, I hate to tell you, but in my district, you know, I see maybe a police car in our neighborhood once a year. It is kind of, you know,
Sure.
a hidden neighborhood, but I've only seen one maybe once a year, an officer.
Yes,
But
but-
it's not just me, it's other people that are telling me. And they're concerning it because, why? Because there is theft all over the city. You know, and they see a police car every once in a while, you know, get off the main street and take a shortcut through our neighborhoods, you know, and they say, whoops, that police officer might come and watch me do something wrong. You
No,
know?
you're absolutely correct.
And then the other
Imagine.
thing is the fire protection. You know, I'm concerned about the fire protection, and you know, we can never be, you know, have enough safety for from the fire department. I must commend them that they are probably one of the departments, and they, you know, because I ask them, again, that's how I get my certificate of occupancies when we open businesses for people from out of town. And these people are young individuals that are getting certified, and they know what's going on and what the Texas laws are with the safety of a building, the proper buildings with the proper security. Because we don't want something to happen and then do something about it. But, you know, it's the traffic that we have. We got to work on these. Like Shiloh's a perfect example. That's in my district. You know, we do have a problem there. So hopefully we can kind of speed up opening and main thoroughway, which is Spring Road, and do something about that. Now they say, George, there you go, we're going to raise our tax dollars. No, what we do is we work with the landowners to ante up for that pavement. You know, I bet if we talk to landowners, is there's going to be a main street going down your way, I'm sure we can work with them. Again, it takes an individual to know about this and being able to communicate with them. And I think that's what I bring up to the table is the proven leadership that I have, that to work with landowners, and they pay for the street to have a little bit more accessibility and extra flow, the proper flow. Because, at 5 o'clock, you drive some of these streets, especially on Fridays, it's kind of hard to get through, through our city.
No, you're absolutely correct. We do have excellent first responders, so,
Oh, yes, we do. Again,
and that we do have, and that they've shown, and they've actually shown that they're above and beyond their call of duty, if you want to put it that way.
yes.
And but there is a lack of vigilance, if you want to put it that way. I think we need more circulation. I don't know if it's the chief or the sergeants or the lieutenants that give them mandate what areas they have to look over. And
That's right, Paul.
I think-
Again, all it takes, like we mentioned, is a little bit better communication with them and see, it's not what you and I want. I don't think it's what the voters want. They're asking for this. We should listen to them and see what we can bring to the table for them.
From in my business, we get a lot of women that are calling because of stalking and because of this and because their ex is following them, or somebody that they met at a bar is following, or exes. And they always ask, what do I do? And start a police report, get paper trail. It's, if it's a threat, start taking silk screens. And you send them off to the police department, and some do good. But they take time. I don't know if they kind of put it in the back burner and say, yeah, whatever. We've had some instances that in the past 6 months that have, the Border Patrol that did that horrific incident. I'm pretty sure that if you go back, she had called the police and she had said that there was problems. It was never looked, I think, that sense of the stalking and the domestic crime, the domestic violence, those issues have to be a little bit more, how can I say, looked over, and instead of just pushed aside.
You're right, Paul. There's been a lot of tragedies, not just in our town, but throughout the United States that, there's leads coming in. All these shootings that have happened in schools, there's been flags. And you're right. There was probably red flags thrown out there that we just we take them for granted. And we can't be overlooking at the minute things, because this can really escalate
Sure.
into something a lot more serious. But in that incident that you're talking about, I must commend the Laredo Police Department, because it was a law enforcement, and usually, law enforcement individuals, they kind of stick together, and they're somewhat unified. And but when it comes to a tragedy like the one you're mentioning, my headquarters is, again, on Del Mar Boulevard, and I had a detective ask me for the cameras, if I can show them the cameras, and they went back a week or so to see it. And then I finally asked him, what are you looking for? He goes, well, we're trailing where this individual was coming from, and we've tracked him all the way up to the street here, and we're tracking him with cameras and stuff. And I thought that was so, my hat was off to Laredo Police Department, because even if it's a law enforcement officer, they still want to do what's right in our community. They've got their heart set to do what's right. And I felt so good about it, because they wanted to make sure they had enough evidence. The individual told me that, they wanted a concrete set evidence on there. You know where I'm going with that.
Sure.
So I was real proud of our Laredo Police Department, as
No,
usual.
like I said, I think it's a lack of communication that binds us, and I think we all need to. All the departments need to sit down. If it needs change it. They have to change. But the stuff like the police and the sheriffs and the constables, I think there has to be some kind of working more together. Because number one, like you said, the sheriff is the highest law enforcement agency here, regardless whether it's federal or not. If something happens here in Laredo, the sheriff's the one that's going to dictate what's going to happen.
Exactly. And they got to work together, where there was an incident, where there was a bank robbery in North Laredo, where the police department got involved. And because of communication, the sheriff's department was able to hear about this car, and they caught him, almost getting to freer. So again, it's all about communication.
Sure.
This was a bank robbery, so they took it serious. But again, we're talking about minute cases about this lady that you were saying. Any minute, we can't overlook it. We got to share information with all these different law enforcement agencies.
No, you're absolutely correct. I think Laredo is at a point right now that it's saying the citizens are, wait a minute, are we going to move forward, or we really have to, like a new, I hate to use this word, but there's a revolution coming of age, We need a change.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we need change now because it's harming everybody.
It is. I agree with you on that. And I hope we make the right changes. We need to move this town forward.
Yeah, I agree.
There's we were taking this real estate class, and we have to, take an ongoing class every year. And it was interesting to know that one of the biggest growing cities in the United States, that they're saying that it's going to be almost as big as New York, is Austin, Texas. We're only about 3.5 hours away from there. So I'm kind of excited for Texas, because we're close to Austin. But that is going to bring business all the way down here. And I feel that if we concentrate on a little bit more of the manufacture. We had what happened to our Levi? Remember our old Levi warehouse? The manufacturer company we had? We had different, and then we had another shoe. We got to go back and knock on their doors, Paul.
What happened? Why did they leave?
Exactly. Why did they leave?
Why did they leave?
We need to go hear it from the horse's mouth and invite them to come back to our community,
And then, Austin is growing. Everybody from California is moving into Austin.
Exactly.
And the way California is growing, I'm pretty sure everybody's going to come back to Texas,
And we got plenty of land around our area, Look at the Toyota plant that opened in San Antonio area.
And apparently it was supposed to be here. like you said.
Exactly. But again, it was lack of communication and lack of, selling. We got to know how to sell our town.
We need negotiators.
Exactly.
We don't need somebody out there that says, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to do this." No, you know what? Hear my voice.
Yeah.
See, my voice sounds pretty good.
You're absolutely right.
And you need somebody that goes out there and knows how to negotiate. Somebody. You know what? We have 4 lawyers something up there.
Yes, sir.
I think right now we have 4 lawyers. We have Bali, our mayor, Ms. Vilma, and I really thought that they would go up there and say, you know what, we need to really change a bunch of stuff that's going on here, and nothing's really happened.
Right.
I mean, they need to sit down and say, you know what, as lawyers, look at all this stuff that we're doing wrong.
Right.
Look at all this stuff that's apparently doing wrong. Let's clean it up. And that hasn't happened. So now, instead of having lawyers, let's have people up there that know how to negotiate.
Right. Paul, I must say that I negotiated for over 20 years in the car business.
Oh, yeah.
I was a sales manager, so I was a top gun in negotiating, and I'm sure I can use those expertise because it funnel into my real estate business. Sure. It's all about negotiating why people should come in and invest in our town and open these shopping centers that we're doing and inviting these other companies. It's all about negotiation, what we have on the table for them.
No, and it's not about, we negotiated because, I got a new truck like some of the people do,
That's right.
Imagine happens.
Yeah.
But let's do this. I agree fully with what you're saying. I think there's a lot of people out there that do that. People that have businesses they understand what's going on. People that pay payroll know exactly what you're talking about. So it's the best of luck. Best of luck to everybody that's out there running, because it's a race that everybody's coming in with. This is what I can do. This is what I've done. This is my experience, and I think that's what Laredoans need to understand. And it's not, the ex-city, the councilman right now currently is going to go out, so nobody's running against somebody that's already in that position.
That's correct,
It's an
Paul.
open seat.
It's an open
And so
seat.
people have to say, this is what I can do, bring to the table.
Right.
And the way you're doing it is the way it should be done.
Right. It's proven leadership. I'm not a gambling man, and I'm not gambling on what I'm doing. I think I have very good experience. It's a big budget that we need to control. We need to oversee it daily. This is a full-time job. I was born and raised in Laredo, and this is a full-time. I will commit to a full-time. And anybody's willing to call my cell number. I'd like to give it out in a few minutes. So get your pencils, pens, and write my cell. It's my personal cell, and it's open 24/7. If I don't answer it, I will get right back to you. I take all phone calls, and that's about being a good city council, is returning phone calls on whatever issue anyone has in any part of the city. It's not just on District 6. I must say that. I am a full-time public servant for everyone. And that's what we need to make sure people understand is what has all the candidates done for our community? What have they done? If you're willing to gamble, so be it. But if you're not a gambling person, think about it. Who's going to do it full time? Who is actually born and raised in Laredo? Who really has it in their heart to do something? And what have they done in the past? Check their history. Check what they've done in their past.
You know, you said an excellent point. Call me anytime. Call me. There's a lot of people that are running. There's a lot of people that are running beforehand, and you tell them, "How you doing? How's this?" Or somebody tells them, "Can you help us out with this?" Call my campaign manager. Call my campaign manager. Call my treasurer. If you're already dictating to people and you're telling somebody that you can't make a decision by yourself, and you're already telling somebody, "Call my campaign manager. Call my treasurer." You're just telling me that when you go in there, you're not going to return a call. You're not going to care. You're going to send it to somebody else that's going to be playing diddlywinks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And so why do I have to vote for you?
exactly.
So when somebody tells me that's a campaign manager or something, my treasurer, or call this fulano de tal, you know what? Your vote went somewhere else.
Right.
My vote's going somewhere else. It's not going to go for you. More than likely, because we've already seen that occur in the past.
Right.
You vote for somebody that tells you that, all of a sudden you go in there, never to be found.
Paul, one of your first questions that you asked me when I walked in here, you said, "Who's your campaign manager?" Notice I didn't answer you. I am my campaign manager.
That's exactly right. And
You know.
and I tell that to everybody that comes in there, because if you cannot dictate yourself what to do
Exactly.
now before you get elected, imagine what's going to happen afterward.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Proven
that's just-
leadership. You're absolutely right, Paul. By the way, my phone number, if you want to write it down at this point, it's 956-251-4847. That cell number's been on me for over 10 years. Office number is 956-267-5555. Easier number to remember. And I will return your call at any given time for as long as I'm in office. But I will return your call if I don't answer, whatever time you call.
Well, one more thing. We're running kind of out of time. I want to thank you for coming out here and expressing yourself. I wish you the best of luck. One last thing for your constituents.
Well, I will ask everyone to please go out and vote. Again, the posters don't vote. Our commercials are not going to vote. Our friends, they can talk about us. We need you to please go out there starting October 22nd, early voting. Don't wait till the last minute. You can do early voting or do by mail-in. But we honestly, we need your vote. That's what it's going to take to go out and vote. Again, no one is going to take the oath of office and become a public servant. Keep that in mind. Check every candidate's past, what they've done, and make your decision. Not because a compadre told you to be committed to a certain person. You, on your own, you make your decision. Don't let anybody make the decision for you. I thank you so much, Paul. It was pleasant to be here with everyone here, and hope to be back again soon.
Take care, and all best of luck again, and let's get people up there.
Thank
okay?
you.
Here's for you guys out there. Tomorrow is 4th of July. Take a little bit of time, and I ask everybody. Everybody talks about the First and Second Amendment. Sometime tomorrow, read the Constitution. Get it online. See what it's all about. See why we're here. See why we're number one in the world. Why? Because of those freedoms that we have. And let's not forget that those freedoms, because, once we lose them, we're not going to have them back again. Until next time, be safe.